3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
You were bothered last year by what Peyton said about attack. Is that on your mind at all going into this game? Back of your mind, front of your mind?
No, that's old news. We've all said things that we'd like to take back. Some things have been said and taken out of context, I'm sure, from time to time. But I honestly haven't thought about it till you just brought it
up. I don't believe you, Aaron. I do not believe you at all.
Taking the high road.
Hello, folks. We are back with a special bonus episode of the Jets, the podcast powered by RCG Digital Media. I am your host, Ras Mark, along with my amazing co-host and creator of the Jets newsletter, Richard McLeod. Hey, buddy. Along with our amazing executive producer, Mark Levine, we are going to share our thoughts heading into this Week 4 matchup versus the Denver Broncos. A ton of juicy storylines. We were saying this before that we started recording, but like normally you would worry about a trap game right before a matchup with a very, very good Minnesota Vikings team overseas. But there's just too many different storylines, too many things that are going to keep the team locked in, so to speak. Rich, tell me a little bit. I mean, do you believe Aaron Rodgers when he says that he's not thinking about this matchup with Sean Payton?
Not at all. I think he's absolutely thinking about it. I think he's, Aaron Rodgers is not always the smartest guy, though he likes to think that he is. But I think in this situation, he's being smart of like, I'm not going to give them anything before. Like, I'm not going to. They gave us bulletin board material, even though it was a year ago. I'm not going to give it back to them and give them something to work off of. But, Rodgers was not part of the team that got their revenge last year against Sean Payton and the Broncos. So
the smirk said it all. The smirk on his face
said it all. And I think he absolutely wants to like have a game like he just had against the Patriots 9-10 days ago. And do that to Sean Payton. So I don't believe him. I think he wants to whoop his ass, probably 1% to 2% more than any other game.
He's like I described him to somebody a couple of days ago as like this old like gunslinger right in the Wild Wild West, and this season is kind of like tracking down all the bad guys that have wronged him in the past. He wants to still get back at the Packers for giving up on him. He wants to get back at like the injury that kind of robbed him of a season, get back at his Achilles. Can you get back at our own body part? I guess I don't really know, but like he motivates himself. Like, Mark, what do you think? Like, do you really think this Sean Payton Hackett thing is like a real like a thing, or is he like, believe him at all?
I agree with Rich that I probably would have believed him if he had played in that game last year. I think there is a sort of measure of revenge on his mind, and I think anyone who says otherwise probably leaked it through Hassan Rek's agent. So take that with a grain of salt. But I definitely think that, he definitely has some sort of revenge having not been able to play last season.
I mean, listen, Aaron is loyal to a fault, right? He's been loyal to guys and people, and like part of the reason Hackett has a job is because he's really, really good friends with Aaron, and he's like always out to defend. Entirely the reason why we've mentioned his deficiencies on this podcast several times, and we will probably continue to be talking about the things that he does poorly throughout the rest of the season. But again, Aaron is loyal to a fault, and I agree with you guys. Smark said it all. He's out for revenge. When you call one of your best friends with the worst coaching jobs in NFL history, that like stings. And if you don't get that revenge, in spite of the game, them winning the game last year, you not being a part of it, you want to stick up. And he prides himself as the big brother, right? He prides himself as that guy, that leader, that tough guy. So I agree with you guys. I definitely think it's going to be a big part of the motivation heading into this game. But Rich, tell me a little bit about some of the things that you are going to be specifically looking forward to in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? The last time we were on this podcast, I think we viewed this game as a little easier than we maybe view it now. Broncos are coming off of their first win of the year. They beat the previously undefeated Tampa Bay Todd Bowleses in a very epic Todd Bowles no-show performance. against a bad team after a good win. Like, we all know all about that. But they went into Tampa Bay on the road, like, as a team that we were like, is this the worst team in the AFC? Are they worse than the Patriots? And we'll see if they actually are. They're not. It's early on, but played better. Their defense is legit. I think that right now they're the third ranked defense in the league. So nothing to scoff at there. Jets have played some, like, they might have not played great teams yet other than the Niners, but they have played four really good defenses between San Francisco, Tennessee. I think by the end of the year, you're going to be like, oh, that's a pretty damn good defense that they have, despite their quarterback throwing the football away every game. New England, still a good defense. Gonzalez is really, really good as a corner. And now Denver. So I'm going to be looking to see if, can Rodgers and the Jets offense keep improving, have success against this really good Denver defense. And the big matchup, and I think this will be a big thing we talk about in this preview episode, is Patrick Surtain and just yet another top corner in the NFL going against Garrett Wilson for the fourth straight game.
Yeah, I mean Garrett has kind of been is off to a slow start. Like everyone's been saying how off to a slow start, but it's an understandable slow start. You said it. He's gone up against a very, very top in the league in terms of corners. All of the coverage is being rolled his way. He hasn't really truly benefited from a true number two. We're hoping that as the evolution of the offense kind of goes about, like a true number two in Mike Williams will start getting more of a presence in the offense, and that'll eventually help Garrett. But again, tough matchup, man. Patrick Surtain might be one of the best, if not the best, corner in, not named Sauce Gardner. But it is going to be an interesting matchup. Mark, tell me a little bit about some of the things that you're looking for heading into this game.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is going to be the Jets run game. The Broncos placed Alex Singleton on IR. He was their starting linebacker. He was leading the team in tackles. He had one of their 2 interceptions on the season. And Breece Hall, he's played 2 games against the Broncos. He's averaging just a shade under 125 yards a game, had a touchdown in both those games. He's got an even better backup in Braylon Allen this year that can take some of that stress off. I think the run game is going to be huge.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you and I are both partial to Izzy, but he's a true.
He holds no weight at this point.
By the way,
unfortunately,
Mark, to your point about Breece Hall's like average yards against the Broncos, you also have to factor in one of the 2 games he played against them. He only played like a quarter.
Yeah.
He's still averaging that many yards.
Yeah. He only had 4 attempts in that game, and he was averaging 18 yards a rush.
Is that good? I
think that
might be okay.
Like 70 to 80 yards.
Yeah, that was that play.
Home run, touchdown. Yeah.
I mean, listen, there's a ton of storylines in this game. There's a ton of familiar faces coming back to MetLife. I mean, we've talked about, Jonathan Franklin Myers. We've talked about our old friend Zach Wilson, who's probably is their third QB and probably won't be dressing for the game. They even have Mike Westhoff as Jets fans will remember Mike Westhoff, our old special teams coordinator who hurt his leg and was coaching in crutches. He used to lead some of the very, very good special teams for the Jets.
Didn't he try to trip a player?
Was that him?
I don't think it was him.
I thought that was Sal.
Yeah, it was another.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, listen, I wouldn't put it past him. He is an intense guy. I'm very, very fond of him. If you've seen the old Jets Hard Knocks with Rex Ryan, he was a prominent member of that staff, and he's now an assistant head coach with the Broncos. But the things that I'm going to be looking at is the offensive line, right? It's been improving week to week. It's been gelling and it's improving in the running game and the offensive game. And obviously, when you lose a player, it's hard to maintain that continuity. But having a first round draft pick to kind of bring in there and kind of take the place of Morgan Moses, who's going to be out with a knee injury. I mean, that's pretty good luxury to have. And everybody's been talking about all all summer long about him. Everybody's been singing his praises. I mean, Aaron Rodgers went as far as to comparing him to the Brickashaw Ferguson this week. He went out of his way, and I mean, he's like, I don't want to make comparisons, and I don't like making comparisons, but I'm going to make this comparison. And went on to wax poetic about how he's just quiet and goes about his business and doesn't shrink from any moment. And I'm excited to see him in getting extended playing time. And granted, it's not his natural left tackle position, but I mean, he's a luxury to have, and he did move around in the summertime. So I'm excited to see him and just see how he reacts. I mean, that defensive front for the Broncos is tough. It's tough. They had 7 sacks last week, and they were making Baker Mayfield run around the field. So it's going to be a tough matchup for our offensive line. But if our offensive line can protect Aaron Rodgers, everything will fall apart. Our offense won't get going. Our running game won't get going. So I'm very, very excited to see, how we kind of put it all together. I don't know. He's a future. Olu is going to be our future left tackle beyond this season. So I'm excited to see how he reacts. Every week, Rich gives us the privilege of writing a game prediction. He gives us a couple of paragraphs in the newsletter. And this week, we get the opportunity to do it live on the podcast. So why don't we get to that? Rich, tell me a little bit about what your game prediction for the game will be and some of the reasons behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I assume we're all probably going to pick the Jets to win. I feel pretty confident going into this game, and coming off of a beatdown of the Patriots, like it's just
a fun beatdown, a very fun
beatdown. Really never in doubt. After a few minutes into that game, you could just tell it was different, and I think that we talked about this in the last podcast a lot. That really kind of just like allowed us to really start being like, okay, maybe this is the team that we thought they were. And one of the parts of that is like beating the teams that you're supposed to beat. And while Denver has some strengths, we talked about their defense. Another area I'm curious to see how they do is keeping Bo Nix in the pocket and limiting his rushing. Jets rush defense has been a lot better the last 6-7 quarters. Really after getting gashed by the Niners in like a slow start against Tennessee. Bo Nix has no passing touchdowns yet this year, but he was very effective on the ground last week. He rushed for over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, first 2 touchdowns of his career. So that's going to be a thing for them. This is probably the most mobile QB they've faced so far, maybe even more than Levis at this point. I still think Levis like wants to throw the ball first. I don't know how much Bo Nix wants to throw right now. Yeah. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. But yeah, I think like the Jets are more talented. They're the better team in all facets of the game. I think that the Jets are going to keep it rolling. I'm going to say they're going to win 23-6.
Ooh, okay. You're definitely thinking we're going to keep them out of the end zone, huh? I find it interesting that the running backs haven't scored a touchdown for. They have a really good running game, and Nix is keeping those rushing touchdowns for himself thus far this season. Mark, what about you, buddy? Tell me, give me a score prediction, and tell me why.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty defensive heavy game. The Broncos defense ranks second against the pass. And I like I said earlier, I predict Breece Hall and Braylon Allen are going to get going. They're going to run down the clock a lot. The one interesting thing I think is what they are going to do about Bo Nix. One thing we talked about in that Titans game before Jermaine Johnson got hurt was they were using a lot of Will McDonald to sort of spy the quarterback to prevent those runs. Couldn't really do much of that later on in the game after Jermaine went out, which is why he was able to run around a little bit more. What are they going to do this game? Are they going to use either Jamian Sherwood or Quincy Williams to sort of spy? They'll probably stack the box a lot, so they'll have a lot of guys up front that can watch out for those runs. The Broncos don't really have a true number one receiver, no matter how much people want Courtland Sutton to be that guy. He's just not. So I think it's going to be a very run-heavy game, low scoring, because I think both teams are going to waste a lot of clock. I have 17-7. I think maybe Breece Hall and Braylon Allen will run a couple in. There may be a shot Bo Nix breaks away and gets one. But I think it's going to be a very low-scoring, defensive-heavy game.
I mean, CJ Mosley is listed as game time. Salah said he's a game time decision with the toe injury. If he's not ready to go, Sherwood will step in and has done an admirable job filling in for him. How much do you think that's going to impact a lot of the linebacker coverage schemes that they're going to? I mean, losing Sherwood has been great in coverage, but you would rather have him as a to be able to spell Mosley in that in a starter position.
I think it's actually favorable
Yeah.
to have him in, especially with these running quarterbacks. He plays so much faster than
Oh
CJ
yeah. Yeah.
Mosley
Yeah. Yeah.
that he has a better shot of getting to the quarterback if he does take off. So I think that's a big thing. If CJ's out, I think they're actually better off with Jamie and Sherwood in there.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! I don't know about better off.
Well, okay, CJ Mosley, captain of the defense, amazing player, smartest guy on the field.
Yeah.
But just in terms of the matchup,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
he
I'm just
matches up a lot better against a
no,
mobile quarterback than CJ would.
no. Sherwood is definitely a more agile, quicker. He's just so fast at the point of attack. He can change direction. But you're right. You're 100% right. Like he gives you a little bit more flexibility in coverage.
Imagine
I
saying this a few weeks ago, by the way. Like the stock of JB and Sherwood has really risen the last couple
listen.
of games.
Listen, credit to him. Credit to him and the defensive coaching staff, and have done a tremendous job in developing him. He's a converted safety, so the coverage skills are already kind of built in. But a lot of the issues that you kind of saw with him were kind of like you question the football IQ. You question whether he was the man, like for a fact, and this is not to denigrate him at all. Like Quincy Williams is not a traditional middle linebacker. He is an aggressive kind of go at him. As a matter of fact, like he needed to slow down. Like part of like his success was the ability to read and recognize and kind of just not run full speed at every, you know what I'm saying? He was prone to cutbacks and counters and fakes because of that like one track mind, one speed kind of rushing mentality. Sherwood never had that issue. His coverage skills were always great, but you always questioned whether he can control as the Mike linebacker, control and make the defensive calls and the line shifts. And I'm going to be honest, and in his first kind of couple of plays when he spelled CJ Mosley against the Niners, like he looked a little lost. Like he looked a little lost. He looked like he was not ready for it. And granted, being brought in first game of the season, and you're like thrust into that play calling duty, it's tough. Game two, I was like, whoa, okay, like there's something there. And now like he's sort of grown into the role, and you can like envision him taking over for CJ once his career kind of winds down a little bit. I wouldn't be saying that after week one, and I wouldn't be saying that last year at all because CJ is such a huge part of that defense. But you're right. I agree with Mark. I'm telling you, his coverage skills and his decisiveness has improved so much that it might even be particularly against this Russian team in Bo Nix.
So
I
Roz,
Yep.
yeah, we need your prediction now.
Yeah. I was literally about to get there. I am. Listen, one of the things that is going to happen in this game is one of the defenses is going to break. I agree with you. It's going to be a defensive matchup. It's going to be coverage heavy. It's going to be a ton of a slow scoring affair. I do feel like our offense is improving week to week. I do, despite how good Patrick Surtain is and that coverage unit is. I do feel that we just have far too many weapons for them to slow down and for them to stop. Our running game is now part of our passing game. They catch so many passes out of the backfield that it's tough. Tyler Conklin is kind of shaking off the rust and thrust into the passing game as we saw his career high in yards last week. And part of the motivation for Aaron Rodgers, he's 321 yards shy of 60,000 career passing yards. I mean, that's a very big milestone that he has shown time and time again. He sees these things and he goes after these things. I predict a 21-7 game. A couple of I still think we're going to do 3 touchdowns in a game. I feel like that's the baseline for this offense. Regardless of how good the defensive front of the Broncos has looked, I feel like our offensive line is up to the task. And I do feel like there's going to be a breakout game. And what better place for Garrett Wilson to announce that he is a true wide receiver one than against a matchup like Patrick Surtain. Like particularly if the other receivers are contributing and you can't shade the safeties over to one side and you have to kind of rove and you have to play a cover two, it's going to give him plenty of opportunities. And I'm predicting a somewhat of a breakout game for him. 21-7, I believe, is going to be the score. Anything else? Any final thoughts, fellas, before we wrap up? Rich?
No, I mean, it's just exciting to think about the fact that the Jets have a legitimate chance to be a 3-1 football team. And when's the last time you can remember that? I can tell you, it was 2015 with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and that season didn't end so well. But this is a different group and a much different quarterback. And man, the 3-1 New York Jets, that just sounds right. I think we all want it. I think we deserve it. And it seems like a pretty real possibility. So that's really exciting.
3-1. Sheesh. Mark, what about you, buddy? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for this game. This is actually the last 1:00 home game that the Jets play until December.
Oh my
Which is
gosh.
crazy
Bonkers.
to think about. All their games are either prime time or in the 4:00
Or
slot.
9 in the morning.
Or they're 9:30 in the morning in London. So yeah, get ready for a good afternoon tilt for a long while.
I mean, listen, when you are a good football team, national audiences want to see you. So, I mean, the NFL gambled on the Jets being good this year, and it appears that their gamble is going to pay off. Our team is fun. Our team is full of characters. Our team is full of very, very positive storylines that I am excited to see play out. I said it before the season started. I just wanted a competitive team that was in every game, and now I'm feeling like my super says I'm feeling cocky. I'm feeling a little slightly borderline arrogant these days because the team is growing week to week and it's improving week to week, and I'm excited and it's it's going to be a fun season. And this was also very fun, fellas. Thank you very much for joining me on this bonus episode. We'll still record our reactions after the game, so make sure to check us out, subscribe, rate, and comment wherever you get your podcast. This has been the Just the podcast, powered by RCG Digital Media. For myself, Rich, and Mark, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week, hopefully after another Jets win.
Let's go Jets.
Yeah.